Again for joining us tonight. We hope you did have a wonderful Monday. Our next segment is going to be the Lectio Divina, and tonight's verse is going to be Matthew chapter 16, verses 24 through 26. That is Matthew chapter 16, verses 24 through 26. Let's get into the word. Lord, speak, and your servant is listening. Then Jesus told his disciples, "If any man would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his life? Or what shall a man give in return for his life?" Word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Let's go ahead and read it one more time. Lord, speak, and your servant is listening. Then Jesus told his disciples, "If any man would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his life? Or what shall a man give in return for his life?" Word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Right now, we ask that you close your eyes and open your heart and allow God to speak to you through this verse. We'll give it a few minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll share. Okay, I'll go ahead and start sharing. For me, the couple of verses before, Jesus is kind of telling his disciples about his time on the resurrection. I mean, on the cross. And if you're familiar with the Bible, there's where Jesus is telling us that he's going to die for us. And in that same token, he's letting them know that we must die for him. And sometimes being a martyr means to actually do that. But in the parable that Jesus is talking to us about, or talking to me about, is for me to deny myself. And at first, that was really hard for me because in my addictions, every time something, I had a bad day or a body part hurt on me or anything, I chose to self-medicate and and didn't solve the problem at all. I still had that problem. I still had that pain. Um, so it wasn't until I started to deny myself, and that deny is more of a spiritual discipline. And what that allows me to do is to receive that grace from God. And, and in turn, when I did have the bad days or the aches and pains, I was able to turn to God, and they were still there, but they were a lot more easy to deal with, and I didn't have to um, go to the bottle or go to drugs in order to drown that out or to cover that pain. I was able to confront it with the help of God and just truly, being a disciple and giving myself to Him. Um, has just changed, has made a world of difference in my life. There's still a lot of tough times, even recently, but with the denying myself, it just helps it put it all in perspective on how we should go about living our life. So that's how he spoke to me. I would love to hear from you what you had and how he talked to you guys.
I'll share. Then Eric, uh, for me, the part where it says whoever wants to follow me, it's calling those who, it's calling me that I decided to walk on his footsteps, and he's laying it out like with transparency. It's like you must pick up your cross. Like telling me the journey is not always easy. You must deny yourself, and because if you want to save your life, in the world, like we want security, we want financial stability, we want to live a long life, which especially when you're over 50 plus, reaching 60, you're already past the mid point, and you start thinking of maybe stretching your life, like doing this, doing that, and just a lot of concerns. uh, Try to do it on our own, which it's good. We have to take care of ourselves, but not over worry where we forget about our true calling from God and where life really resides in. And just apart for my, if you lose it for my sake, you will find it. So the way to find it is like Marcus was saying, to deny ourselves, to lose it, let go of control, and just put him in the center. And through him, we'll find it. We'll find the true life, the true happiness. That's what I got from these verses.
Thank you, brother, for sharing. Anyone else like to share?
Yeah, I'll share.
Okay, good.
Uh, what stood out to me the most? I mean, I think I've heard these verses a few times in my life, throughout my life, and what's always stood out to me is the part where it's just to bear your cross, and at the same time, it's Jesus is telling you, how you're gonna bear it by denying yourself and allowing me to be the center of your life during this moment, these moments where life is the hardest for you. I know when I look back at the hardest moments in my life, when I was in addiction and I was in alcohol and I was just losing my mind over everything. I don't know how I got through it. I don't know how I got through it. Some days I I'm, I was I wasn't even conscious of what was going on in my life, and I just know that God was there. those moments in the sand where you only see 2 feet printed on the sand because he was carrying me in those moments, and he was carrying me in those moments where I was really lost, and I could have hurt myself, or someone else, but mostly myself. And it's just like to bear that cross, you have to deny yourself. I mean, you're gonna suffer either way. I figure most people suffer in life. It's part of growth in some way, but to to do it without God is nothing is truly meaningless, but you'll never really fully see the bigger picture of the worth of your life, to be a part of his kingdom, to be accepted as his family, as in one family of mankind, of humanity. It's just beautiful what Jesus came to help us come to understand, on top of salvation, healing, uh, word, everything that he brought us through his passion and through the Father, through the Holy Spirit. It's beautiful, and I just feel like he really helps us bear that cross through the difficult moments. And yes, you do become a target when you choose to follow Christ, but it also reveals the snakes in the grass, what's really coming up behind you, what was there the whole time, regardless of the fact. It just helps you really see how the world is once you accept Christ completely. And it could be good, it could be bad, but you just have to keep moving forward with him, and it'll be worth it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Eric, for sharing. Anyone else like to share?
I'll share. Kind of a little perspective from from what I read, from what I feel is when you seek to live a life close to Christ, and you try to change your ways and follow his steps, sometimes the most conflict you have, or the most friction you have, is within your own family members, um, because you will be judged by friends and family members because you're not part of the same circle that you were in the past. And as you continue following the path with Christ, it becomes more and more distant, but at the same time, more and more um, hurtful, because the people that you love, they throw rocks at you because you're seeking to be closer to Christ, and you try to follow the same steps that he took. And I think that's really that is probably the hardest thing for me, is knowing that you love somebody, yet they fail to see what is it that we're trying to pursue in our lives. And it's nothing more than be like Christ. Because of his love, we want to be able to share the love with other people, but they don't see that. The only thing they see is superficial, and then they tear you down, and that is hard. That is very hurtful. Um, and sometimes distance families, they were close at one time, for some reason they divert because they don't have the same values or the same common grounds. So I taking up this cross is not easy. It's hard. It is hard, but with but we want to be. But if, like I said, if it's for his sake, it is worth it. Or there's no material things in this world that will give us what he'll give us at the end, and ultimately that's what we want: his rewards, not the earthly rewards. So, oh, that's for me.